Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I haven't made a video in a long time, so I thought I would return with a special one. This time, I'm going to be covering part of an episode from a Netflix series called Degrassi Next Class. Now, for those who don't know, Degrassi is a franchise that has multiple iterations, each with their own seasons, starting from Degrassi Junior High in the late 80s to Degrassi Next Class in 2017. I've watched all the episodes in the franchise, so I know quite a bit about Degrassi. Thus, I won't be going into this episode completely blind to how Degrassi works. Still, this one episode of Degrassi Next Class really struck a nerve with me, and I've been thinking about making a video on it, but I haven't had the desire to do so until now. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few clips to provide some context for this episode.
Come on, faster. Yo, join me.
Okay.
All right, this kid's back door. I'm gonna gank her.
Well, hike up your skirt and do it quick. We need you over here.
Target annihilated. Let's do this.
They're in a sect. I'm destroying minions of the left.
BJ, cover me with a taunt.
Coming up, they're gonna be honest like girls at an H&M sale.
All right, let's move in, guys. All right, come on. Pause. Drop your rage. Rage drop. Faster. Come on. We got this. Yes!
We did it!
We're actually going to regionals. If I bring home a trophy, my parents will die.
Gotta admit, you were right about ganking that girl first.
One day you'll learn. Never doubt Hunter Hollingsworth.
Guys, I hate to burst your well-deserved bubble, but statistically, we barely won.
We were down to our last hit points. Any one of us could have died.
So we didn't.
Yeah, but have you seen the other teams in regionals?
Newman High are beasts.
We can take those guys.
On these laggy machines, I thought mine was gonna freeze entirely.
And I heard Northern's playing on Digital Storm GTX 980s.
So we give up? We are this close to hanging a banner in the gym and being heroes to this stupid school.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, but on these CPUs in a game of millimeters, we're miles away.
No, I refuse to accept defeat before battle. I'll get us new computers.
How?
I told you, never doubt Hunter Hollingsworth.
BJ, once you finish juggling, you have to race back to join us, or we'll all get destroyed like this.
100% more Barry Allen. Got it.
Is it even possible to move like the Flash on these laggy machines? Hunter, you called this practice.
We might not need it anymore.
We can get the new gear.
In roughly 4 days by my count.
We need to get back to work. We need to research the new gear. Can we help you?
Have you heard what people are saying about you guys?
For the last time, if people are making fun of us, we don't care.
Yeah, they're not making fun. They're saying your video and your club is misogynist and that it celebrates sexualized violence. Anyways, there's an emergency meeting in student council after school.
This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Then who do I shoot?
To summarize, there's a gaming club at the high school, and they're participating in tournaments for an online multiplayer game. They managed to get a ticket to regionals, but they need better equipment to keep up with the high-speed action gameplay, or else the other teams will be ahead of them in points. One of the team members says that he's going to find a way to get them better gaming equipment, so he decides to run a Kickstarter campaign to raise enough money for it. He later finds that the club has managed to raise some money. It seems that the team may be able to get the gear that they need. Unfortunately, a new obstacle has now presented itself. The class president informs the club that the game they're playing is misogynistic and sexist. Why? Well, we'll find out soon enough.
Sit down. One at a time. We're here to discuss the future of Gamer Club, not snipe at each other. Maya, the Feminist Club, still has the floor.
As I was saying, when Hunter and his friends play their games, they say a lot of really sexist stuff.
So you've been spying on us?
You play in the gym,
You wouldn't say anything offensive in there.
hike up your skirt, referring to the victims only as ladies.
Before I begin analyzing this episode, for your reference, the girl in the hijab is named Goldi, the blonde girl sitting next to her is named Maya, and the boy arguing against them from across the table is named Hunter. Anyway, we're actually off to a good start with the Feminist Club. This is one valid complaint that they've made so far. I personally don't find comments like that offensive, but I know that not everyone is going to feel the same way. These comments are not appropriate for public events.
Fine, we'll stop.
And that's really the only solution that needs to be implemented. Just stop making the offensive comments. Done.
Can I go?
That's not all.
Okay, so we're not done.
Your game also hypersexualizes women. And the men are shown as powerful and notably clothed.
Those aren't even humans. Those are like animals and plants and robots and stuff.
Yeah, with tons of cleave.
I fail to see how this is an issue. It's a well-known fact that sex sells in the media. It just does. Sexualization of women is quite commonplace. It's not just in this game. Heck, there are women sexualizing themselves in the media, and there are some men doing it too. Knowing this, I can't really see how sexualization is an issue. It's a marketing strategy. You don't have to like it, but that's subjective. Just because you don't like it does not necessarily mean that it's bad. Now to address the other point Goldi brought up. She said that the men in this game are powerful while the women are not. Again, this is another marketing strategy. Most video game players are men. Video game developers want to sell their games to these men. You do the math. Of course, the powerful characters in the game are going to be men. How is this an issue? It wouldn't be an issue if only women were the powerful characters, so why would it be an issue the other way around? Plus, there are plenty of strong female characters in gaming. Samus Aran, Lara Croft, Bayonetta, Faith Connors, etc. You get the point.
How is that any different from a cheerleading uniform?
They're regularly attacked. It's potentially harmful to any woman who's experienced violence.
You do know we have a football team, right? And those guys are actually trying to hurt each other?
Your game normalizes male violence against women.
Now, let's stop here. Goldi is arguing that the video game normalizes male violence against women. But let's take a closer look at the game. Let's rewatch the game footage that was shown up to this point. Okay, so from these clips, we can see male characters attacking female characters. But if you pay close attention, you can see one of the female characters attacking another female character. Plus, as you will soon see, Hunter says later in the episode that the game has an option to remove the female characters. With all this in mind, I have a hard time seeing how the game normalizes male violence against women when A, women can attack other women, and B, men can attack other men.
Imagine how that feels to a sexual assault survivor.
Okay, I don't know whether or not Goldi has ever known any sexual assault survivors, so I'm not going to comment on that. Still, it's a video game. I highly doubt anyone is going to get triggered over violence in a video game. Plus, there's a female character in the show who was actually raped. Her name is Zoe, and funnily enough, she was the class vice president and is the class president's best friend. She knew about the game, yet she didn't get triggered over it. Now, that doesn't mean that someone else who was raped or assaulted might not get offended by the game, but it does show that not everyone who was once a victim of violence is going to be offended by animated violence on the computer screen. In any case, Goldi's argument here is nothing more than conjecture. She's defending potentially triggered sexual assault victims that seemingly exist only in theory. If she had had some evidence to support her claim that video games like this could affect victims of sexual violence, then she might have had a stronger case, but she didn't have such evidence.
We don't have to watch.
But it's in their halls. The school can't continue to sanction this potentially triggering activity.
Triggering. Then let's ban everything that triggers anyone's fear, right? Like blonde hair, which triggers my fear of populars mocking me for whatever fashion faux pas I've made. Or like your meathead boy toy, who I am afraid will punch me if I make eye contact with them in gym. Or like your headgear, triggering my fear that you'll snap and blow us all up. Okay, everything is a trigger. Everyone's scared. That's high school. This whole thing is stupid.
Now, before I start hearing comments about how Hunter's an Islamophobe, he was trying to make a point. Granted, he made that point very badly, but he had a point. Anything in this world is potentially triggering. If you ban anything that falls under this category, then there wouldn't be very many things left to enjoy. You would have to censor so many things, and that's not a world I want to live in.
Both Simpson and the PTA approached me.
Because that's what I was thinking about the whole thing. I didn't want to do the ending.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Please don't shut us down just because I said some things the wrong way.
And what, pray tell, was the right way to stereotype my entire religion?
I was trying to make a point about irrational fear. I think it's dumb that people think that. Okay, I've got solutions, all right? We'll ditch the headsets, no more trash talk.
Again, this is a perfect solution to the only valid issue that the Feminist Club brought up.
And we just won't use the female characters at all.
So there's going to be no female representation?
Okay, you can't have it both ways. You just can't. You're the one complaining about the female characters being scantily clad. Now that they're going to be removed from the game, it's still an issue? Really? You can't have your cake and eat it too. It's either one thing or the other. Pick one. That's how compromise works. Another thing that's problematic about this is Goldi's issue with having the female characters removed. According to her, removing the female characters would lead to no female representation in video games. That's the issue here. Not the fact that removing the female characters would lead to men killing only other men. That's just not an issue at all to Goldi. Now, before some of you get out your pitchforks and scream, "That's a what about the men's argument?" just listen to what I have to say first. I'm not finished here. It's not my intention to complain about male disposability in video games. It's just that men have been hurting and even killing other men in video games for a very long time. So why is this phenomenon suddenly an issue when it happens to women? Heck, why is everything suddenly an issue when it happens to women? I guess I'll just never know the answer to that question. Essentially, what I'm asking is this. What is Goldi's point here? Is she trying to argue that only men should be the ones getting killed by other men, or is she trying to argue that there shouldn't be violence at all? I ask because I can't support her argument either way. Putting only male characters in as the targets for killing implies that only they should be the targets of violence. That may not be what Goldi intends to say, but she's coming off that way. If anything, she should be against violence in general, not just violence against women. Moreover, violence is always going to be a part of video games, whether we like it or not. Granted, not all video games have violence, but many of them do nonetheless.
What? There's a girl on the team.
Just one. And on the other teams, I've seen pretty much none.
That is not an argument. I know that this is very hard for a lot of people to understand, but not everything needs equal representation. As long as the lack of diversity isn't causing any problems, then it's not an issue. As the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And by the way, no one is forcing women not to join gaming clubs. No one at all. I've been in a few gaming communities, and none of them were against having women. In fact, they even had a few women. You would be hard-pressed to find a gaming community that actively bans women. And if anyone seriously thinks otherwise, then they haven't actually been in any gaming communities. Why are there so few women in gaming clubs then? The reason is simple and honestly not that mind-blowing. They just don't care. Most women have little to no interest in video games. I don't know why. They just do. If women want to join a gaming club, nothing is stopping them from doing so. What makes this even worse is that the guy who brought up this argument, his name is Tristan and he's the school president by the way, even says that the school's gaming club has one more girl than many other gaming clubs do, which would mean that most gaming clubs in the area have no girls. So what exactly is the issue here? If anything, the fact that the school's gaming club has a girl is a good thing. What, is the club supposed to have 2 girls and 2 guys? Is having just one girl not progressive enough for you? That's an incredibly weak argument because, as I have said, not everything needs equal representation, especially for a team consisting of only 4 members. Before we continue with the episode, let's go back to Goldi's argument about female representation. Here's the thing. You're the activist. You're the one supposed to be solving these types of issues. What are you going to do about it? An activist isn't one who complains about issues. An activist is one who actually finds solutions for issues. You have to be the change you wish to see in the world. It's not going to happen just because you want it. If you want more women and female characters in gaming, go out and actually make it happen. Don't just sit on your butt, complain, and expect equal ratios of men and women in gaming to magically appear. That's not how activism works. That's not to say that this Goldi girl doesn't understand how activism works at all. She did actually solve a valid issue for girls in the school earlier in the season, which I'll explain in the video description below. Unfortunately, regarding this particular topic, she seems to have forgotten what activism means.
It's not my fault that guys are better than girls at video games.
Oh, wow.
Okay, that's not what I'm... Guys grow up playing video games, okay? I don't know why, but by now they're better. It's just reality, okay? I'm trying.
Okay, so it's clear that the gaming club chose the wrong spokesperson for the group. I'm not going to argue against that. Hunter could have made many better arguments in these discussions, but he wasn't thinking straight and ended up saying some foolish things. If he had taken at least one other member in the club with him so that they could back him up and provide some good arguments, then things might have been different. But that's not what happened, unfortunately.
How about you try a different video game?
No.
I thought we were talking solutions. What about Wii bowling?
It's also clear that this Goldi girl doesn't quite understand how compromise works. If she truly wanted to compromise, she would have said something along the lines of, "Hey you guys, I don't think your game is appropriate and I don't like your trash talking. If you could tone down the trash talk and play your game somewhere else, that would be great." Boom, a perfect solution for everyone. But no, that's not what Goldi wanted. She wanted it all. She didn't want the club playing the game at all. Instead, she wanted them to play a different game. That's not compromise.
Oh my God. You don't get it, do you? This is the game. Like at nationals, like in the pros. I didn't design it, I just play it.
Yeah, exactly. You did not design the game. You and your friends just play it. So why is the Feminist Club going after you? If they wanted to do something productive, they should have just gone to the source of the problem. Oh, I mean, perceived problem. And what would the source of that perceived problem be? The company that made this game in the first place! But no, the Feminist Club members didn't do any of that. Instead, they went and attacked a gaming club that was only playing the game.
Okay, the PTA already heard about the meeting in Simpson 2, and they've asked for the club to be shut down.
That's bull. When you were elected, you said you'd fight for us.
Well, I have to pick my battles, and you made this one too hard to win.
Well, in his defense, you did not do a good job of mediating the conflict. I mean, you seriously tried to argue that the lack of female representation in gaming clubs was an actual issue, when it wasn't. Plus, you could have tried to come up with a compromise that would satisfy both groups. You could have said something like, "Goldi, you may have a few good points, but you can't attack the club for just playing the game. They didn't make it. How about we just have them play the game somewhere else and not here in the school?" If you had said something like that, the gaming club might not have been shut down, but you didn't. Instead, you just sat there and let things play out the way they did up to this point. No wonder the school's gaming club was so mad. They had to deal with a ridiculous feminist club and a weak class president. Anyway, that's the end of the episode. There's a bit more after this part, but it's not an important scene. There are also 2 additional subplots in the episode, but again, they're not important. I want to make it clear that I'm not actually attacking the show or its writers for this episode. Now, the writing could have been better. For instance, who on earth is going to shut down a video game well into a tournament, especially when the other schools seemingly didn't have a problem with the game before? It just doesn't make any sense. The school could have at least let the tournament finish first. Still, an outcome like this is not entirely unrealistic. Unfortunately, these things can happen because of feminism. Some people find it easier to just give in to what feminists and SJWs want so that they would be quiet. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case here. It's unfair, but it is what it is. Plus, the writers didn't intend to paint Goldi entirely in the right. She wasn't. Let's be honest, who's going to agree with her laughable point about potential triggering? No one in their right mind would. That, and as Hunter said, he and his friends didn't design the game, so there was nothing they could do about it. Again, all of this shows that Goldi wasn't meant to be the only one portrayed in the right. So why did I make this video? I made it because some people seem to agree with Goldi's points. Well, some of her points anyway. I find this problematic because in actuality she had only one valid point. The trash talking. Even then, a solution was presented for that problem. Twice. And it wasn't even a problem with the game, just with the gaming club. All of Goldi's other points were not valid. Not at all. The game is not an issue. Sexualization and violence have been in video games for a long time. For this feminist club, why are they suddenly an issue now? Especially when they involve women. Plus, the lack of female representation in the game is a feminist issue, not a real world issue. What makes this matter worse is that Goldi didn't even try to compromise. She just wanted everything to go her way. Granted, she may not have meant to do that, but that doesn't change the fact that she did it anyway. If she was actually trying to compromise, then she did a really poor job. Also, it didn't help that the class president was too incompetent to mediate the conflict properly. And even if Goldi had gone to the company responsible for making this game and had gotten them to stop people from playing the game entirely, which would realistically never happen, what good would that have done? That would be just one game out of what? Thousands? Like, thousands of games that have sexualization and violence? Shutting this particular game down wouldn't have changed anything. In short, Goldi and her little Crusader Feminist Club did not accomplish anything. She didn't act in the name of actual women's rights. All she did was get a game banned simply because she didn't like what was in it, and the gaming club got punished for it. This was essentially censorship, and the gaming club bore the full brunt of it. This is why I made this video, to show that the arguments of Goldi, Maya, and the rest of the feminist club don't actually hold any water. Essentially, my question to Goldi, her allies, and anyone else who agrees with her is this. What on earth is your point? It's clear that Goldi and her feminist allies have not actually played very many video games. This essentially proves something that can be noticed about most feminists. They generally mean well, or at least I believe they do, but they tend to have a very myopic view on certain things, and sometimes on things in general. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say on the matter. Hopefully you all enjoyed that. Thank you for watching, and see you later.